pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to, Allison to do the oath of the ex officio board members and student members. You guys want to join Ms. Floria?
Stand up here. Yeah, you can stand right at home. And just raise your right hand. And just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Dominic Guthrie,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of student board member
the duties of student board member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
We are Station Superintendent's report, and it's Dr. Terry to give us an update.
President Scavo, thank you very much. I want to first thank you, welcome our student board members, Dylan and Dom. That won't be hard at all, right, Dylan and Dom? I told Dylan, don't you dare come looking better than me at these meetings with that tie there. But you both wore handsome shirts, so I appreciate that. So, as my son used to say, any shirt with a button on it is a handsome shirt. So you look very handsome. Thank you so much. Dylan, what school are you from? Dom, where are you from?
I'm from Sachem North.
Okay.
I'm from Sachem East.
Okay. And what is your role in those schools? Like, how did you end up here today? Were you not at a meeting and they just picked you, or you? Okay. And I guess you won. Congratulations. You are the president of the student government. Okay. I like how you hit that button all the time there. Dylan?
I did the same exact
You
thing.
did. Why did you do it?
I don't know. I guess I wanted to have a leadership role for once. I feel like I'd like to say I have the qualities of a leader. So I think the best time was to do it now.
The fact that you're sitting here right now tells me that. So good for you, Dylan. Dom, same sentiment. Why did you do it?
Yeah, I wanted to improve and bring more spirit to the school. So I felt that being president would have a big impact on that.
Okay. Similar haircuts. Did you plan that, or just that's the style these days, right?
It's just the hair that my mom has over there.
That's
So,
I see that, Mom.
I don't know how much of a choice I had with that.
Let's get her on camera. Yeah, I had that hair too, so keep it as long as you can. And it was a lot darker than this about a month ago, but actually a few years ago. So, gentlemen, thank you and welcome. And we're going to refer to you a lot, and you're going to remind us every time we look up why we're here. So, thank you for being here. So, I don't need notes or a book or anything for what I'm about to talk about, and that is our bus difficulties that we had at the outset of this year. Every year at the beginning of the year, I talk about the great things that are going on in our schools and our kickoff and how the wonderful things happen at Sagamore and Somerset and all across Sachem schools, all across from K through 12, and those incredible things that happen. And this year, quite honestly, I have not spent almost a second of time doing that. The first day, I visited all the buildings with my staff, and we were in all 15 buildings. But from the moment I got, not even the moment I got back, before school started, I started hearing some issues with our routes, with our minibuses and our vans, and those routes, quite honestly, are owned by or contracted out to the We Transport Corporation, and we has 4 representatives here tonight, including the COO. And I'm going to give you, Robert, an opportunity to come up and speak for a minute. And I want to commend you and thank you for being here to face this conversation, certainly in person. Some people wouldn't do that. And we've had a strong partnership with We. And so this was quite a surprise to us that this year got off to such a rocky start. We first started to realize that there might be problems with our minibus transportation a couple of days before school started, when I got an email from someone I sent to Michelle, who helps me supervise this. And she said, person said, I did not get contacted for my private school route. And I always do. And that is a process that we do. We go and knock on people's doors. We shake hands. We introduce ourselves. If no one's there, we'll leave a note on the door. I'm your driver, Danny. It's the same driver from last year. I know your kid. I'll be here at 6:40 a.m. to pick him up and drive him to St. Anthony's or drive him to Somerset or whatever it is. We've always had that personal connection. And that year, we initially realized that that wasn't happening. And that was very close to the start of the year when we started to get that notification. And we relied on We and our relationship with town and other vendors for many years to do these things. And that, quite honestly, didn't happen this year. We have approximately 250 routes in the district. Again, We has 90 of those mini routes. And what's been most disconcerting to me and upsetting to this community is the fact that all those routes, those mini routes, and while they make up a small portion of our overall routes, they are 100% of our most vulnerable kids in this district. And to hear behind every one of those kids the story that comes with them and the struggles that they've had in their life and that their family has had to get them to this point, the fact that they come to our schools every day happy, it's the best part of their day, want to learn, want to be here, want to be loved by their staff and the families. And we had days go by at the beginning of the year where kids couldn't get to school because we couldn't transport them, because we couldn't get them here. And we didn't know that was about to happen. I walked out of school with Michelle at 6 p.m. on the day before school started. And we were told, we're still working through this. We've had some difficulty, but we will be contacting families. We'll be contacting parents. We'll get this done. And I was confident that that was going to happen because it had always happened. And that didn't happen this year. And I'm sorry that that didn't happen this year. And we owe our parents that apology because it didn't happen. And it hasn't happened, quite honestly, in over a week now. And so we met during the day. We met in the evenings. We sent people to their yard on Saturdays and Sundays. Miss Sarakis, a big football fan, during the NFL kickoff, right? She's emailing. We shut down everything, and we were emailing parents till 10 p.m. on Sunday at 9:50. I sent you the last email I got, and I couldn't believe she was still up and she answered it. Now, I had thought I would watch the Giant game, and so I'm pleased that I didn't need to watch the Giant game, quite honestly. And then you saw what happened with the Jet game as well, really horrific. But those are completely set aside in terms of what actually happened with our families and our kids. So we have worked this problem. I know We has worked this problem as well. And Robert, you have some information for the community that you're going to share. But I just had a Zoom a few minutes ago with 96 parents on there. So it's not down to, I'm thinking, a handful of people. We still have a lot of issues in the district. We have buses 891 that shows up one day and doesn't show up the next day. Bus 862, I can't believe I know all these routes off the top of my head now. 862 and 861 didn't have a driver since the beginning of the year. So I know we've worked to rectify these things, but we have to really, for the benefit of our kids, and as I said, every one of them, our most vulnerable kids, have to work this problem until we have a solution. One of the things that we did agree on is that we were going to go with another company for 5 routes that was going to alleviate some of the concerns around a driver shortage, and we did that. And I really thought that that might open up some things for today. And things got better at a couple schools today, but it got worse in a couple other schools today. And I really just took it on the chin from our families, and rightfully so, because we are not communicating enough to them so that they know what to do. That their kid is stranded up at school till 3:45, 4 o'clock. We finally put in sweeper routes so we can go around and pick up any kids who haven't been able to get picked up, but we should know earlier in the morning when this is going to happen so we can communicate it with our parents. They just want to know what's going to happen with their kids. Again, as I've said to them, we know the kids are our most precious commodity, and even more so our kids that are on our minis. And so we have to do better. And so I'm going to commit to continuing to work to do better. I know Michelle has done that. All of our staff are fielding these calls. We put more staff out in our bus yard to support them there, to answer phones and things such as that. But I'm at this point. Michelle, do you want to jump in with anything? And you think, I know I'm kind of going really fast and saying a lot because I have a lot to say, but did I blow past anything or?
I think you hit all the key points. I just think one of the other things we're looking at, even, in addition to the buses that aren't showing up, is the timing of the routes, because we have students being picked up when classes already started. They're getting in late. The buses are coming 40 minutes after the end of the day. So that's something those are the students that are being transported, but the times we need to adjust as well.
And Robert, you know this as well. That can't happen. We can't have kids picked up after school started. We can't have kids showing up at home at 6:45 at night. So you had mentioned to me, if you don't mind coming up to the microphone, you could introduce your team and you could talk about some of those things that you guys are working on over at WE. And again, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your comments on a longstanding partnership and your comments on the special needs students that we hold in high regard, the highest regard. We specialize in that type of transportation for many, many years. So again, I appreciate your comments on it. I'm Rob Quinn. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at We Transport. I have my colleagues with me, Mike Francisi. He's Director of Operations for Suffolk County. I have Paul Morey. He's our Director of Client Relations. And Mr. Pete Delaney, he is our Vice President of Client Relations. I want to go through a summary of why we're here, how we got here.
Can we raise that?
I don't know what that means. No problem. It's usually green, right?
There we go. Okay, good. Okay, thank you, sir.
Robert,
Yeah.
would you mind holding it?
Oh,
So I can
okay.
pick it up?
Sure.
Better? Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. So again, I just want to provide a summary of how we got here, why we're here, and how we're going to resolve and mitigate this situation. So on behalf of We Transport, I want to apologize to the station students, the parents, the district, and the local community for what's taking place this year with busing.
Robert,
Yeah.
you got to hold the mic up to your mouth.
Got it.
I know you're not used to using the mic. I apologize, but I
That's
don't
okay.
want to interrupt you. I appreciate it,
Of
but
course.
just hold it up. Because at home, this is live stream, just so you know.
Okay.
So people need to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So again, we take ownership of what happened. We're not here to make excuses and place blame anywhere else. Our main priority has always been and always will be to get the kids to school safely and on time. I'd like to explain why we got here, like I said, and how we're going to mitigate that. But first, I'd like to give a little background, as Chris alluded to, on our partnership that we've had with Statesman School District for 20 years. Since 2003, we've been the transporter here. And during the past 20 years, we've never experienced anything like this. So on the contrary, service with the support of the Transportation Department here in Sachem has been top notch. And we're proud of that benchmark, and we're confident that we're going to get back there with the help of the Statesman Transportation team. So in short, we believe that there's two main reasons is why we're standing here before you tonight. The first is we moved from an outdated DOS-based routing system and replaced it with a more modern Windows-based platform that unfortunately failed. it malfunctioned. It didn't perform well. It crashed on several occasions, including the first day of school. So that's the first reason why we're here today and we're having all these issues. The second is the driver shortage that's continued to plague our industry for many years, leaving us, short drivers, not only here in Sage, but of course, Long Island. And that's been a pain point and a burden for every bus contractor in our area. So those are the two main reasons why we're here today. But we understand that our communication and response time was not very good either. So we need to work on that too. So now that we've established, the causes of the situation, we have some short-term solutions and some long-term solutions to help mitigate what's going on with the busing. So we've been working closely with the district transportation team to reroute numerous routes, as Chris mentioned before, that weren't performing well. Many of those changes went into effect today, and many will go into effect by Friday. We've assigned staff to open routes, including safety supervisors, training managers, dispatchers, everybody with a CDL that's been approved by the SED to transport students in our company is transporting here in the Sagement School District. It's all hands on deck for us. We have external support from the routing software companies here helping us navigate through the software, and routing experts from our national team to help fix the routes. We have additional staff assigned to our terminals to help answer phones to improve communication. 5 open routes, as Chris mentioned, were outsourced to another contractor. They went into effect today. And the district transportation team has drivers sweeping the district for students that were missed in the afternoon. So believe it or not, we do have some positive things going on here throughout this. We have 95 big bus routes that are operating without any issues. So we take, I know there's no solace in that to those students that are not getting a ride, but it is 95 big buses, which is nearly 50% of our transportation service. So of the 70 routes that Chris mentioned, we only have 3 that remain uncovered. So we have 3 uncovered routes, which proportionately is less than 10% of our overall 170 or so routes that we're doing, which again, there's no great solace to the students that aren't getting rides, but we are operating at over 90%. Our focus on safety of the students has not wavered. We've had very minimal incidents and accidents. I don't think we've had any, to be honest. So our focus to transport the students safely is still our priority. So that's kind of a summary of where we're at, how we got here, some ways, short-term goals to mitigate what happened, and we have some recruiting and to reinvest in our driver roster. I'm going to pass it over to Paul Morey, who's going to talk a little bit about that.
Good evening, folks.
Is that microphone?
No, just hold it 2 seconds and let it go.
And let it go?
Yeah.
Okay, we're solid. Okay. I'm not trying to hide from anybody. My voice is loud enough usually in a room like this. If I can talk to 300 drivers, I can talk to you. My name is Paul Morey. I'm the Client Relations Director for New York, this region. I willingly took this job. I've been with
I'm sorry. We're just going to pause for a moment because the audio at home cut off. Your microphone's not working. Yeah. If we could just use that one, that would be great.
And just leave it like that, right? It's usually someone cutting me off deliberately, but that's a whole nother thing. So when he got Sachem about 20 years ago as the transportation director, I was really proud of him. I mean, this is the district. The size and breadth of the district, the academic achievements, the sports, everything about it, the way they take care of special needs kids. So we're trying to get the most in the shortest amount of time, but without sacrificing safety. We have the largest number of third-party testers in the state. I'm licensed to license my own bus drivers. I became the first in New York State, other than a state official, to do that. We are using every opportunity. We're literally training every single day from beginning of the day to the end of the day. The folks that have CDLs like myself go back out and do a run in the morning, do a run in the afternoon. Short term is we need to get as much drivers in as possible. We are going over all the routes. If there's a way of saving a route so one driver can do it, but we don't want to have children on a run for an hour and a half or 2 hours. My special needs kids can't.
Yeah,
put up
Paul, that's
that
what we
amount of
have
time.
right now.
Yes,
Too
that's
many.
we're working on. Our first thing is to get everything covered. Another thing, we've had an uptick in COVID. Drivers are out sick, attendants are out sick. So that's another thing that we've dealt with. Even folks in the office have been sick. So we're working literally 24/7 to try to get things accomplished. In a minute, I'm going to turn it over to much more learned person, VP Pete Delaney, who comes from the education world. We have ways going forward working with you folks, and our communications, frankly, sucked. Things crashed. People got into queues because of people calling over and over again. If we didn't get to see on our computer screen what was going on, we were really shooting blind at it. That basically is under control as they clean up the data. We had data both ways going, where we had kids that were no longer in the district and other kids that were being added. We're addressing those, but we're addressing the children with special needs first. I spent a heartfelt while on the phone with someone from Bellport Academic a couple days ago, and I was like, if I could have come out and driven the bus to get the kids home, I would have at that point. What was frustrating was we were getting the kids to there, we just weren't getting them home, which that's not acceptable. So we're working on that. Going forward, Pete's going to explain what our plans are, so someone like me, working with Mike and Rob, can be through the whole school year getting prepared for the next school year. So in the summertime, we don't give you the last moment, something might fail.
Yeah. Paul, thank you very much. And that's one of the things that's really key here in my community. Who's very upset, quite honestly, with me. And Joe and Joni have done an incredible job in answering phones and talking with people. A lot of people pointing fingers at us that you should have known this way before. And I'll be honest with you, we did not know. And maybe we should have. And so we'll change some systems here so that we have a little more of an alert and ask you to do that with us as well.
Absolutely.
But you used the word before to describe the communication. I'm not going to use that word because my kids are here. But
I figured I could
the
get
communication with the phones, like these phone calls that come here get answered. We try to be polite. We try to speak with people. People still yell at my Randy. Don't yell at my Randy, which is my secretary. You'll more likely get a phone call back from me if you don't yell at Randy. But sometimes I get on the phone because I hear people yelling at Randy, but don't yell at Randy. But anyway, the 40 minutes online waiting and then getting cut off or not getting answers, we can't have that. And I really would appreciate that. So I do like hearing that you're working with that communication piece, but that's got to be better because quite honestly, those calls should go to you because we run and look at our routes and look at our things and they're not matching with what you guys have because you guys are the source. So I need you to answer those calls and work with our parents, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I will be brief. But again, my name is Pete Delani, and I am the Vice President of Client Relations for the company. As Paul mentioned, I spent 31 years in education. I was a school administrator for 20 plus years, a athletic director, assistant principal, and principal. And also for 15 years, I managed the school's transportation in my roles as assistant principal and principal. I joined the company 2 years ago. And one of the things that was obvious to me across the Beacon platform and in the transportation industry is that the school year cycle and the business cycles weren't aligned. And the idea that this can all work itself out by the end of September is really not an acceptable mantra. And so we've done this in other parts, other regions where we call it our back to school toolkit. And we're going to be introducing that to you folks so that we have our business cycle and your school year cycle aligned. And we will have points of contact for it's like an intranet between the district and ourselves. You'll have your contact individuals who you should contact, but we'll also have, our routing data will be on Excel spreadsheets. We'll have naming conventions that both sides have agreed to so that it's a uniform process. And we will also work with you to come up with mutually agreeable dates and timelines when your rosters roll over for the new, school year. We'll be looking for that route, that student information so that we can route it efficiently and get it to you so that two or 3 weeks in advance of school opening, you folks become aware of what might be some potential issues or not and what we have to do to clean those up. And then additionally, as we move through the school year and you're doing your add drops and your changes, we want to have a more efficient process to do that. So we are very confident. We've done this in a number of other school districts that are part of the Beacon family, and it's worked quite well. It is a cultural shift on both sides, both on our operations side and both on the school side. But I think when we start to work with your staff, you're going to find that it's stuff that you folks will want because it's just about really setting those timelines and ourselves internally holding ourselves accountable for that. So I certainly, in my capacity, appreciate your frustration and your angst. We don't take that lightly. I sat, and like I said, in your seat as an administrator, and certainly all kids, right, need to and deserve to get to school on time and efficiently. But particularly the population that we're discussing now and challenged with, it's mostly critical, obviously. And just obviously there are time on learning statutes, so you folks are not only hearing from your parents, but you're hearing from the state and you're hearing from your Department of Education and the need to meet all those times. And as I say to our company, probably a superintendent's fantasy is probably not to know the name of the bus company, right? Because that means things are going well, and that in between those two poles of drop off and pick up in the afternoon, all the important things are really occurring, which is the education of your children and the students that we transport. So we do understand that, and we will work towards that. I know that's not a magic wand that I'm waving here today that's going to resolve that for you. But as Rob said, we are working to get this right and to make sure that we take these. We are taking it serious. We have done the last 2 weeks I've been down here working with our staff. We brought in different resources. We are doing diagnostics on the communication. We've been examining the call volumes that are coming in. And I don't share that as an excuse. It's one of the things we've learned in other customer advisory boards that we've held in different regions. The number one thing that the districts share with us is don't empty out the offices, because then the communication becomes a problem. And then those people who are trying to reach us contact you folks. And so we are already working on how do we clean that up short term, but going forward long term so that you folks never have to experience this type of startup that you do. As Rob did mention, we did have to replace an outdated DOS system. It represented a number of issues. One, it was dying out, but two, it also represented security issues. We are dealing obviously with very sensitive information, which is student data and student information. And we need to make sure that we're up to speed on that. Lastly, I'll just share with you one of the things I myself was during COVID was that I was still a principal. And one of the things I felt during COVID was schools, because COVID was an accelerant that forced schools to move forward with their technology and their online digital learning. During that time period, the latency, a lot of the transportation companies, weren't active and didn't move forward with that technology. So I don't present this as an excuse, but we are moving forward with our technology to catch up to speed with our partnered school districts in order to make sure that we're giving you the best, the best service that we possibly can. And the issues that we're having on technology, we can't present here as an excuse, nor are we. but we do need to move our our technology platform forward so that we can interface more effectively with all of you folks. So thank you.
One of the things I'll share is you're right. I never knew a route number before in my 4 years, my fourth year here in Station. Now I know 891, 862, 8, right? So, and I know what's running and what's not running. I've never known that before. And as a superintendent, I really shouldn't spend part of my rare molecules, trying to figure that piece out. But what you've said, whatever Pete, Paul, Robert, all of this is great, but it means nothing if our kids, every single one of our kids, don't get to school on time in a proper fashion and get home. So I appreciate this and appreciate you coming out. And I love this long-term plan about this summer school kit. And we'll definitely take advantage of that. So we're prepared as we move forward. But again, none of this means anything to anybody if we don't get this right now.
Understood.
Chris, I'm gonna open it up to questions from the board. As you can imagine, we've been inundated with emails and complaints and concerns, and obviously the children that are affected are generally our most at-risk children, kids that are 5 and 6 years old and just starting school for the first time. So you can imagine the anxiety and stress it's put on a child. But I know there's questions from our Board of Education. I'm going to open it up to the board for questions, and then what we'll do is the best you can to answer these questions. Alex?
When did you guys receive the routes from the school district? I have a couple, so this is just the first one. And I guess the follow-up while you're looking at that is, when did you realize that it wasn't you didn't have the staff or you didn't have the capability to fill those routes?
Well, I believe we got the information in late August, right? Which was kind of gives us a very short window to route up all the students that we have to. But to answer your question in regards to when did we identify that we weren't prepared for this, it wasn't until very late in the game. Otherwise, we would have reached out to the district. It was the new software we weren't familiar with, and it wasn't operating effectively. So it came about rather quickly.
Okay.
Could I just add in that one of the problems with the routing software, it didn't immediately flag when kids were not coded to a route where we could see it right away. If we could have gotten a list of, wow, these kids, Bellport Academic wasn't routed or something to that effect, we would have had a better idea. And that was one of the things now we're getting into, and the software is up. As I said, it was the first couple of days at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was in the office and the computers were down. And the people, I was amazed at what they did accomplish during that time. I was like a babbling idiot, to be honest. I was like, you just tell me what to do.
And we don't say, when we say the computers were down, TransFinder was down across the country, particularly on those first 2 days on the AM routes. Again, we need to have a better plan. We need to be able to account for that. But it contributed to the chaos, but also being in the dark a little bit on where things were.
So I guess my follow-up now is that, you talked about your motto of saying we care. And what I'll say to you is I don't feel it. I don't think any of us feel it, because when we tried to get our people to go out of their job and help you, we said, what routes aren't covered? And you sent them a list from Comac. Then when we came back at you, you sent them a list from last year. So where is it we care? Where is that level of communication? We can't even help you do your jobs that, by the way, you're getting paid millions of dollars to do, the company at least, and we're not filling them. And I have a lot more, but before I blow my top, I'll let somebody else go, and then I'll try to calm down in between.
Sabrina?
You don't have to. That was, you expressed something that I don't think we even knew about, which we will address either tonight or tomorrow morning, that we didn't even realize that type of information was sent to you folks.
When you chose to update your server, which was about 4 weeks ago, correct? Yes?
Update the server? No, we outsourced our computer system to TransFinder, and we decided to use that early in the summer.
Early in the summer. And was Sachem ever made aware of that you were doing this? Were you any communication to Sachem whatsoever?
I believe a memo was sent out, or a letter was sent out to all the districts that we were transitioning away from our old routing software.
Okay. And was there any warning that this could possibly lead to what we're facing right now?
I don't think we were expecting this to happen. We did pilot it over the summer at the Hofstra summer camp, and it worked quite well there. We did have some problems with it, but nothing to this magnitude.
Just to add, TransFinder is one of many good programs that are out there. The actual owner of TransFinder was actually in our offices working with us.
Well, I think the district uses
We do.
TransFinder as well.
Right.
I know you use TransFinder, so yeah. So we thought it would actually be a really good fit. You use TransFinder, we use TransFinder, and when it works seamlessly, you're able to download the information to us, and then we can give back to you and flag to you like no one's at this stop or this one's not going, whatever, and vice versa. It was supposed to be the best of both worlds. You use TransFinder, we use TransFinder. So it was supposed to be apples to apples on that one, and something, whatever, was not. And that, I don't think anyone could have foreseen this much of a catastrophic failure in the route.
I know from being on social media, many of us, we have a special ed SACHM group, and it's been extremely overwhelming and heartbreaking to hear the posts and listen to families who are having trouble getting to work, who are, losing time at work, and also sitting home wondering if their kid's coming home. And we listened to a few parents today, and it's heartbreaking. It's been so heartbreaking for the last week for us to have to listen to this. Okay, it's unacceptable. Okay, and the reality is that communication, a lot of these parents are just asking for communication. They're willing, some parents, that I can drive them or I'll find a ride for them, but they send their kid on an AM bus right now and they don't know if their child is coming home on an AM bus. Are you calling these parents, or is anybody telling them we're not going to have a PM bus available for their child, or they're going to have to go on the sweeper bus? Have any of you ever had a moment where you didn't know where your kid was? That panic? These parents are having that every day. Every day. I can't imagine it. I'm shaking right now thinking about if this was my child. I know we've brought up before about getting the app system so that I would be able to know where my child is. So there are parents out there who are hoping that their kids are getting home. And that onus is on you, and the communication has to be better. Because if a parent was told, listen, we're going to get your kid to school, but listen, bus route 888 is not going to have a bus home, a lot of parents would appreciate that. But the communication's not happening. And I know that our staff here is trying their best, but if the communication's not coming from you, how can we communicate to our families? That's the biggest problem. I know that they're trying. The whole board could sit here and say how many emails and text message we've gotten from Ms. Sarakis and Dr. Pelletieri in the past week. They have probably not slept. And they are constantly they're trying their best. But if we're not getting the communication from you, and they have other jobs to do. They have so many other jobs, and they're doing your job. And you're not even communicating with them. That's what we're asking for. And I sat on parents, and parents have text message, and all of us, everybody's getting emails. There has to be better communication. I think at this point, we know that things are going to eventually get better, but you have to communicate every step with these parents. You cannot expect a parent to put their child on a bus and hope it makes it to the right school and hope that they're going to get a ride home, or they can find ways to get their child to school and home. But they're just hoping every day that a bus is coming. That's extremely unfair to any parent, especially parents of special needs children. So I'm asking you from this day forward that there needs to be communication daily with these parents who do not have their routes at all, because you said there are 3 uncovered routes. How many students is that?
I don't have the exact number, but
Do we know how many
Michelle, are
students?
those routes now covered, those 3? Is that part of what we did with the company coming in? I know they covered others, and then we were going to cover these.
Well, I think the gentleman just said before that the original 4 that weren't covered are now covered, but now 3 others are not covered. So we could be talking.
So you don't even
30,
know
40
which
students,
one those are.
we know which ones they
You
are.
do.
And we're going to be looking to blend them by week's end. So we're hoping.
But
that
do
those
the
routes get
do the
together.
parents of those kids on those routes know that either they had one and now they don't, or that they know that they will have AM but not PM? That's what these parents need. I think we could all at this point saying, listen, this was a mess. We're cleaning it up, but there needs to be daily communication with them. Right? This is a service we pay for. Okay? And these parents are entitled to this service of a bus. And again, for many of these students, it's in their IEP. And we have to legally follow them, and we're not, right? Or because of the services that you're providing, we're having trouble with that. It's unfair to these students, and it's unfair to these families.
Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Slattery, and I'm a parent of a child who has special needs and also who has epilepsy. So during his time at school, besides having door-to-door, he also required a nurse on the bus. And as Sabrina said, we now have students who require that, and there's no nurse on the bus. So even if you send a bus, if there isn't a nurse on it, so I want to know, is communication with our special education department with the routes, like how is that all working to make sure if somebody's just going to cover a route and that coverage bus now doesn't have what is needed according to the IEP, how is that getting communicated? And again, I had parents whose children were left at BOCES in Bellport, and this is single working moms or dads, and nobody's there to pick them up. Like, these are kids who have significant disabilities. And as Sabrina said, like, my heart is breaking because to put your son on a bus or your child on a bus when there's a possibility of them having a seizure or being, medically fragile, and now it's 2 hours after school and your child's not home. What you go through as a parent is something that, unless you have a child who has seizures and have been where they're being rushed to a hospital for that, you don't know what these parents are going through. So again, I'll reiterate, we need communication, but we also need our special education department to be working alongside transportation, alongside with you, to make sure all the issues are covered. And again, I would never let my child go on the late sweeper bus, as Dr. Pelletieri said, for kids who are just left there, because that's too long of a day. And if he's tired and hungry, those are triggers, and that would set off a seizure. I want, as a parent, the opportunity to go and pick up my child if there's not a bus showing up in the PM to get him, because then there's even more likely a chance that he will have a seizure later in the day if he's tired and hungry. And now there might not be a nurse on the sweeper bus that's going to pick him up. My child wouldn't know and would get on the bus. So
Laura,
anyway.
Laura, I'm going to jump in for 1 second. Our special education leadership is here in the front row, and I want to thank them for being here because they have come to me every single day saying, how is this getting fixed? And we have communicated that information. And you're right. There are times when the bus doesn't come with the right harness or with the right person. We send it back and get another one. So that's part of our communication, and we share those communications. It's not where it needs to be. It's got to get there yesterday. We've had that conversation with them.
Okay. So anyway, I'll just state again what Sabrina said. As a parent of a special needs child, I need to know if the bus is going to be there. And if not, I need to know that too. So I can make arrangements that I am comfortable with, not a sweeper bus that others may be comfortable with, but I am not. Thank you.
Stephanie?
I'm not heartbroken. I'm actually infuriated. I first will want to know when this is going to be fixed. We're getting a lot of talk and no dates, no goals. The parents are they feel like they're being run around. They're parents that have no idea if their kid's bus is going to show up. They drive the kid to school and then they find out the bus was at their house. That's completely unacceptable. So that's my first question, is when. The second question is why. Why haven't you contacted the parents? It's the smallest thing that could happen to where you guys could have fixed this problem and made it better for all these parents with kids with special needs at home. I'm a parent of a child with special needs, and what you're doing is absolutely cruel to them. So that's my other point. My last point, which is I feel is the most important, is that some of these children will never drive when they're older. These are activities of daily living. They're goals of independence. There are parents online right now posting that their kids are afraid to go on the bus because of what happened to them. And excuse me if I'm getting upset, but that's years of work to take care of these kids and get them back to being able to be happy to be on a bus because of what you guys did. You didn't give us any information. You left everybody in the dark. And how dare you? How dare you to the kids that you did this to?
Vinny?
So, hey guys, just a couple of questions, right? So section 14 of the contract. So let me take a step back. Who owns the contract between we and Sachem? Is there some point of contact? How is that managed?
We transport.
No, who at We Transport? Who's our contact over there?
I am.
You are. Okay. So are you familiar with all the terms and conditions of your agreement?
Not all of them.
You should be. Somebody should be, right? Somebody should own that relationship and understand what's in there, right? Because section 14 personnel, item 12, you must supply drivers. You don't have drivers. So there's a breach of contract, in my opinion, right there. I'm not an attorney, but I'm just reading language, right? So you're breaching your agreement. Now you keep going. Section 9, routes, right? Section 17 talks about you guys are obligated to do trial runs, right? 2 in the AM, 2 in the PM, at least a week prior. Was that done?
Not all of them.
Not all of them, right? Again, we're dealing with breach of contract, right? So these are the types of things, communication, right? Somebody mentioned the school kit. Can you expand on that a little bit? So what is your proposed sort of communication model? Is there somebody that we can go to, Sachem can go to and say, you're it, and if you're not around, who else? What's the escalation path, right? So our transportation people, because I asked the question, who's our contact? Well, he was a guy named Carmine, but he's no longer here. They moved him out of the business, right? What did we have, one guy and he was the CEO? Was he really taking care of our account?
Wait, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, and again, I'm not, this isn't going to be for tomorrow, so I don't want to put it in front like it's a shiny object and it resolves your frustrations and concerns and, legitimate issues. What we'll do is when we establish the back to school toolkit with you folks, which is to align the business and the school year cycle, the first thing we're going to do is put in who those contact people are, so that anybody in your district, maybe if the personnel change or someone comes in, they'll have access with a password and they'll see immediately, and like Rob will be on there, Paul will be on there, Mike will be on there, their contact information, their emails, their office phones, and they'll be, we have on there what you contact them for, like specifically, right? And then, as I said, the whole point of it will be to work with the key members of the district to make sure, A, that not only do we have the timelines, but that we also have communication protocols. So when I say this part right now, again, please hear me. I'm not saying it as an excuse, just as what we're dealing with, okay? And we're dealing with it because of system failures on our part, not on your folks' part. So it's important. The call volume, which that we've created right now, is something we're having to work through because the diagnostics on it is overwhelming. And we can't be in that situation in which we can't sort through the call volume in order to get to what is the I don't want to prioritize, but what issues and who do we need to speak to? So one of the things we're going to have to set up in a longer term relationship is what are those communication protocols as far as direct district to operations
Communication
contact?
protocols, escalation paths,
So
who's who, right?
Yes.
Map them back and have
map it
regular
out,
sort of cadence
map it out
meetings,
so it's
right?
clear. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then your system failed. There's no hot backup? There's no hot backup for this system? TransFinder, it failed on day one. There's no backup system for it? Like a hot failover?
Is printed out books with student information.
So it's a manual
Yes.
hot backup. So you need to probably invest in a system, right, that has a hot failover. You guys are too important. You're transporting almost precious cargo, right? And you don't have a failover system in this day and age, 2023, right? So a little hard to believe. Yeah, Rob, that's it for me. Thanks.
Matthew Bauman?
Just a couple of questions. Was there a missing practice to test out the routes or do some sort of a simulation before the first day of school? I know you said the system went down, but is there a process like the week before school starts to just ensure that the routes will run smoothly?
The process is the drivers do dry runs before the routes actually start.
Just to add to your question there, part of the problem.
Can you guys I'm sorry, can you just get a little bit closer to the
I'm
mic
sorry.
when you speak, and then you can step back, just so people from at home can hear you.
the picks for drivers where they pick their routes was pushed off and pushed later. So that's where there was also a problem with getting information back from the drivers when they do dry runs. And we like them to do multiple dry runs and get it down. So it entailed them after they did their dry runs, things came up that were not routed. So those were getting changed on them. I do want to address, we did attempt to call a lot of parents, but what happened was everyone with a CDL was going out on the road. Sometimes they were going out before the driver calls in that they're not making it in today. So we just did not have, I mean, everyone's out there that can drive a bus or a van is out there driving one. But your point is well taken. The most important is getting to the special needs parents to let them know that you make the choice. You know, you don't want to take a sweeper bus. I don't blame you at all. I was dealing with the Bellport Academic, and I believe one of the district drivers that was being sent, and they came to our yard to get an attendant to do the run finally. It was heartbreaking because the time factor. Now we're having to go get the attendant to come back. So it is a point well taken.
Just I have like two more. So speaking about the driver shortage, there's definitely a driver shortage. I run a summer camp. I experienced that myself. What I had to do is go out and find them, go on Indeed, offer them more money. What steps have you taken to increase your drivers?
We're on Indeed. We're offering literally thousands of dollars bonus. We're paying them while they learn. But once again, we have to vet them through the state, their fingerprints. We see a lot of candidates that appear good, and as soon as they give me their license to run, it's no longer a viable situation. We have a whole team in from around the country, helping us hire. We've seen, and unfortunately, no matter how much we've been on Indeed, we've had work fairs, job fairs, we've had folks, whatever to entice them to come in, just to come in and put application in. We allow them to do it online. They can sign off electronically, so we can run a lot of stuff to the folks on it. People say they're coming, they come, they take 2 weeks of training, they get a license maybe in the third week, and then they go off and drive a truck for Amazon. It's a very frustrating, but we don't give up on it. The hundreds of drivers that we train every year, amazing number. From the safety standpoint, which has been what I've been involved in for 45 years, goes back to if I won't put my child on the bus with this driver, I'm not putting your child. My daughter suffers from seizures. I know I'm also in my other life a paramedic and a firefighter, so I deal with the emergency end. I actually, a lot of the children in districts over where I live, I actually respond to the house, and I'm known as Paul from the bus company. Yeah, we do care. That is the one thing we do. Getting the people in and getting your routes covered as expeditiously as possible is our biggest thing, and focusing on the special needs first. That's without a doubt, that's our first priority, and that's what we're trying to do. And we are going to figure out a way. If I have to call you in the middle of the night to tell you something's wrong, the driver's sick, and I can't cover it, we will work that out.
If I could just add to the gentleman's question about what we're doing to reinforce our driver roster, and Paul helped spearhead this in Albany as we lobbied the governor's office to get approval for third-party testing for CDLs. So it's a common practice throughout the United States. New York State was one of the last states to get on board with that. But we can now do our own CDL testing with the approval of DMV inspectors. So rather than waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks to get a road test schedule for the CDL for someone that we trained, we can do our road testing. We have a facility in Medford, and we have one in Elmont that's being developed now. So that initiative has already put several drivers on the road. So that's one thing that we're working to reinforce our roster.
And
well, you can
I'm just going to add to that because statistically, my driver is more likely to fail with me testing them than motor vehicles. I work directly with the Governor Hochul's office on this. Mark, the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles, bestowed it on us first because he trusted us, our safety record, and it was going to be that way. So anybody else that does third-party testing for anything, truck, bus, or anything in New York goes back to, I'm also the vice president of the Contractors Association. We work with other companies. Yes, we have competitors. Everybody's competing about this, but when it comes to safety, there's no competitors. We do all work together on that. But I don't want to say, oh, this person is great. They look great on paper, but they can't drive a bus or van. Same term for that for me.
So lastly, I just want to just mention I'm a special ed teacher in a different district, in another district. And, periodically there's a busing issue for a student here and there. And I can tell you, I have seen it when a student is either not picked up to go to school or not picked up to go home. It creates such anxiety. And we're all saying the same thing, but
We totally understand that.
So I'm just going to jump in and I got some questions. On my session, you have a question? You got it. I'll go last.
So, gentlemen, first, I do personally appreciate you coming here tonight to face the music, as they say. I think between myself and Mrs. Slattery and Mr. Scavo and the rest of us here, there's probably over 40 years of Sachem board experience sitting here. I do not recall ever having a problem with busing to this magnitude in all those years. I don't know, does anybody else ever remember having that? So clearly there was issues, and I'm sure there was flags, as you started to point out. I'm not going to reiterate what so eloquently was stated by Mrs. Pickowitz and Mrs. Volpe and Mrs. Slattery, but we should be embarrassed. As adults, we failed those kids. Collectively, we failed them, and we need it cleaned up. So I'm going to rely on the sincerity that I see tonight and the work of our people and your people to get that straightened out.
Very good. I'm going to ask a $9 million question, all right? Because that's what we spend on the small buses a year, $9 million. What happens tomorrow? Okay, our kids are going to be picked up in 10 hours. Okay, our youngest, most vulnerable, high risk, high needs kids are going to be waking up out of bed, and they're not going to know. They're going to be putting their best outfit on and getting their book bag, and they're going to go to the door. Okay, and what happens tomorrow? We have 3 routes that are not covered. Okay, what happens to those 40 or 50 children? How are they getting to school? We have 10 hours for the next pickup. Right? What's going to happen with that? Where are we at?
So we're working with the district, Joe Savone and Joni, and it's just a transportation office to get that resolved. And they're helping us transport those students.
So those students will have a ride tomorrow.
I can't guarantee. I'm not exactly sure who those
Okay.
students are. We're working throughout the night.
So that
get
leads me
covered.
to my next question. Okay, if a parent's holding that child's hand and that bus doesn't show up, who do they contact? What number do they call, and where are they going to get some type of resolve to make sure that they get some information as to the bus is not coming in the morning, but we will have a ride home? Who do they contact for that?
So they can contact the transportation office directly.
Transportation office?
Yeah.
Robert, our transportation office or we?
Ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Would you mind saying that phone number? Do we have that
I
number?
don't have it off the top of my head. I can get
okay.
it for you before we leave.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You know what? Yeah, if you could send me that and I'll put it out to my people. But again, we got to have people on that other end, and you've committed to that, having people on the other end to speak with them. Thank you.
So the biggest issue that I'm hearing, and obviously, regardless, the lack of transportation is a communication issue, and we have to communicate with those parents, especially if there's no ride tomorrow. We have to. And I'm going to ask the same question that Ms. Volpe asked. I mean, what is the timeline to fixing this problem? And we're almost done with our second full week of school. What is the timeline to getting this resolved so kids can get on a bus and come to school on time, ready to learn? Do we have a timeline?
I can't give you an exact date, but I can only tell you that, we're working around the clock to make this happen. Our staff now had a day off in 3 weeks. They're working 12 to 15 hours days because they take pride in what they're doing, and they feel terrible about this, as we do. So to put a deadline on it of tomorrow, Friday, or Monday would be unfair. So I can tell you it'll be resolved in the near future, but I can't give you an exact date.
Just to add,
Will somebody be calling these parents tonight to let them know they will not have buses tomorrow?
I believe the district transportation office did that already, but I'll confirm that for you.
Is that what happened? Has every parent who's not getting a bus received a phone call from either
It's the
we?
same routes that have been opened.
So that's 862, 861.
And 891.
So it's 3 different routes.
Michelle, is that your understanding?
I thought those routes were covered and it was different routes, so I'm not sure. I'm going to say that those parents don't know.
Well,
because
they need to know tonight.
Our transportation department, before I left to come down here, they were waiting to get the file to see what the routes were. And they hadn't received that yet.
We'll
Because
follow up
one-
with Joe after the meeting to make sure the parents get contacted.
Yeah, I
Because-
would appreciate that because yes, our understanding was those routes were covered and that there were others that
Right.
weren't now.
And
It's-
we know that a lot of the questions we're getting are, we had parents that had routes that were covered and now all of a sudden they're not covered and they don't know why they're not covered. And we had at least 7 students that dropped off the database that had transportation the first few days, and then the weekend cleanup happened and then they were off the database. And when those families called and said, how come my student doesn't have a ride, and they're just not in the system.
So I guess my last question is, obviously what's creating a big problem here is the lack of drivers. All right. And you guys have mentioned that you're nationwide. And obviously you do routes in Nassau County and probably, Westchester and New York City. And do you have the ability to pull temporary staff, okay, where maybe you have a larger, influx of maybe drivers in another county to Long Island to handle this issue?
We have done that already. We've actually pulled drivers from the city into Nassau and then taken Nassau into Suffolk. So yeah, we already tapped into that very early on.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, it's a crisis. It seems to have gotten better, but it's not fixed completely. And I guess what we're expecting is, and you reiterated it before, that all hands on deck for Sachem. We're the second largest district, okay, in the state. And, we have almost 12,000 students and we need to get them to school. We rely on you guys, along with our own transportation department, to get them to school. So it has to be all hands on deck because our kids deserve better. Our families deserve better. And we're going to be very, very close to the situation, I guess, over the next couple of days to ensure that it gets done. I know there's a couple of questions. I know Meredith didn't have an opportunity yet.
Sorry, but I'm going to drop a bomb. Did our charter school kids get to school? Who takes them? Do we take them? Do you take them?
Michelle, do
you
know if South Shore Charter got to school? I haven't gotten a single call, so I haven't spent time looking.
Right.
I
So
think,
can we
I
pull
think we
those?
got an email while we were on our Zoom that from one parent that wasn't being transported, but that was just Joe Cervone. He just called to say that our transportation department was not calling families. They always say when they're your routes, you call the families. We don't even know who those families are to contact.
So that's
So
gotta be
can
done
we
tonight.
can we take care of our special needs children instead of the charter school children first? I hate to say that, but it's, we had to go ahead and hire a bus to get these other children to school that are not our children. And then we have a debacle like this with our children who really do need to get to school on time because, as you know, they get extremely anxious when their time schedule is thrown off. So if we can look into that. And I know you said, I'm sorry, I came in late, so some things might have been said. I know you said that you're working, and I believe the gentleman in the middle, I believe, is probably the most genuine of all. I do believe that he cares and wants everybody to get here on time. But when you can't give us a goal, I understand you can't give us a drop dead deadline because there's so many balls in the air right now, which shouldn't be in the air in the second week of school. But when you say that you don't have even an inkling of a deadline, that's unacceptable. When our parents are calling you guys and they're not getting phone calls back, that's unacceptable. So I'd like for you guys to commit right now to a goal. If we have to move the goal, which I wouldn't like to, I would be okay with that. If it's genuinely because you're working your butts off and we're just not getting there, but to just leave it where you don't have a goal, it's not going to work. You can't do anything when you don't set a goal and put it on paper. And I also want you to commit right now to a time frame. If a parent leaves you a message, how quickly will you return that call? Because I have people who've left you messages on August 31st who are still waiting for a phone call. That's an unacceptable timeline. I would say a parent should get a call back no more than 2 hours from the time they leave you a message.
So I appreciate the questions, and I think as Rob.
Yeah.
Yep. Apologize. Yeah, we appreciate the question, and I appreciate where it's coming from, but to give you an artificial deadline right now, it wouldn't serve anybody. So when we say to you that the goal obviously is to get every child transported every day, morning and afternoon without interruption. That's the goal, right?
I get that, but I feel like we're playing a
bad
bad game of ping pong here. Like you think we're doing it.
Please let him finish.
Yeah.
Sure. You have another question.
Yeah. So that's the goal, and that's what we're working, as Rob said, around the clock to do that. We would be being disingenuous if we said we're going to do that in 24 hours. So we have to. We're wading through this, doing the diagnostics, working our way through. We've got to, in some of these, we've got to set up the communication protocols to make sure they're working. We're hearing you. We're not taking this defensively. We got the information. We're going to go back tonight. We left the office tonight. And again, this isn't like a woe is us. We left the office tonight. There was a full staff working on the routing, and we're going to go back to the office and we'll take this information and we will do our best with it. I understand for the family that's home tonight that if their child does not get picked up, I understand it doesn't do them any good. But for me to say to you, this is the specific date and time, we would be being disingenuous in this forum. We've got to work through the challenges that we have right now. And I'm sorry that you don't feel like we're being genuine in our response, but we are here because we do care, and we are listening to everything that you guys have to say, and we're taking notes, and we're going to go back with it. So that's the best answer.
What's your best guess,
that
though?
we can
Like,
give you right now?
Are we looking at weeks? Are we looking at months? Like, without some type of timeline, I understand what you're saying, but without some type of timeline, and obviously we're all going to work towards it as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, we're
finding things out right now that
I say this with all due respect. This probably isn't the best forum for us to give you an artificial date or timeline. We will fold back with the school administration and the transportation staff with the questions that you guys have raised and the issues, and we will get back to them and communicate with them in a timely fashion. And the parts of this that are personal and emotional, we hear that. We need to hear it. We need to accept it, and we own it. But that's, I think, the best channel of communication right now is for us to listen to you, listen to the points you're making, listen to the questions that you're asking, go back with our staff, answer those to the best of our ability, and then communicate that with the appropriate school personnel and then the appropriate parents, and we'll work towards that.
can you at least make a promise that by tonight, every single parent that's being affected as of tomorrow will get a phone call?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. In this environment, I don't think those type of requests or statements are really appropriate or necessarily serve a greater good. I understand you're not going to like that response from me, but having been in school administration for 31 years, that's not an answer that I would have given at a school committee meeting to parents who requested that.
I mean, you
Or-
could give
or
me
board
a
members.
list. I'll start calling parents. Like I would,
We will
I
do-
would say that they
we
need to
will-
be called tonight to
we
know
will-
that they're not getting a
we-
bus
We
tomorrow.
will do our due diligence on that.
That's why I don't think it's
So
genuine.
Just one thing you pointed out, given our choice, the special needs children obviously come first. You raised a very valid point. It's a tough call sometimes, but we will try to move drivers onto that without throwing, it's a terrible term, but warm body. Somebody doesn't know and doesn't work well. So we have looked at that, and we were going to look a lot further into that portion. We do have drivers coming online. Coming online with licenses and everything else. As I say that, somebody else is probably packing it in tomorrow or at the end of the week. They just wanted to come back for the first couple of weeks. We don't get to know. We're not clairvoyant with that. But we do take it very seriously that we will be looking at every route. And if I had a choice, it would be a non-special ed route that was dropped for the day if we had to do it that way. Someone once said to me, please don't use the same schools, the same ones over and over. It's happened in other districts. I know what it's like. I went to St. Anthony's. They get dropped first a lot of times, but they can deal with it. It's a terrible thing to say, but they can deal with it if they're close to the school. a child going to James E. Allen, Bellport Academic, they can't. And those are the ones we're looking at with the utmost sincerity of covering those first. I truly mean that.
So I'm going to let the last board member speak. I know Alex wants to speak, but I'm going to keep this conversation is getting very passionate, okay, and it's also getting a little spirited, and I'm going to keep this on a short leash because I want you guys to get back to the office and start, obviously making those calls and contacting our families. So Alex, you're the last one.
Yeah. So I'm concerned that we didn't really get a lot of answers, right? I'm concerned that there's still not a clear path of which routes are not covered. I'm concerned that we don't know who's supposed to contact parents. I'm concerned that while the only thing that I think really we got answered tonight was it's completely your fault. And while you apologize, what strategy is in place to fix this? Those are the things that I don't see in place tonight as we move forward. We have no end in sight, and that's what's most concerning, maybe for all of us, right? Yes, we don't agree on anything ever. This is so simple for us, right? And I don't know, I appreciate you bringing us together, by the way, because that's huge for us. But we really need to do better for our community. We have to do anything. We'd be willing to help, but the issue is like you have to get our people the right information so that they can cover a route. They don't even know what routes they need to cover when you don't communicate that. So that it's got to be, which ones are covered, which ones aren't. Lastly, you mentioned COVID before. What plan is in place today for moving forward that says, we could lose 10 drivers tomorrow. We're going to just say, oh, sorry, guys, we can't cover those routes. We don't, we're trying to find more people. Like, my concern is that you bid on a contract that you couldn't fulfill. If you couldn't fill the contract, you shouldn't have bid on it. So you got to fix it, and you got to fix it tomorrow. You got to fix it tonight. Every single parent needs a call tonight. Nobody should be waiting at the door with their son pacing with anxiety because his routine is thrown off, or his, or her routine is thrown off. You have to do better. We represent this community. We have our finger on the pulse. We know exactly what needs to be done here, but we rely on you guys to do it. $9-10 million you guys are getting paid. And I know you're not getting all that money yourselves, but you're getting enough to stand here and take it from us tonight. You gotta fix it and get our people the information they need to help you. We have people ready to bend over backwards for you. Give them the information they need, please.
I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I'm sure we're gonna be in touch in the very near future. And as Alex said, please get those contact numbers to our people so that in the event that you can't call them all, we have to try and get a hold of them and at least communicate with them. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I have a question for us about this. Can I ask a question for us? No.
All right, Stephanie, again,
If it can't be handled there, is there a process for us to get it handled somewhere else?
that's an exec session question.
That's an exec. Okay, so the process, the community can't know
Well,
how that's
well,
done.
we already said.
I'm not talking
that
about
we're-
contracts. I'm just talking about like a stopgap for now. Other than what we're doing, like could that other company take on more?
That would
and-
be a discussion we
Okay,
have to have.
all right.
in exec session.
I had planned, Mr. Scavo, a brief presentation on capital projects. If we could we could still do it today because I know it's not long. Are there questions or comments from the community right now while these gentlemen are still here? Okay. Okay.
I don't want to take it out of order.
I apologize.
What I prefer to do is let's do the capital
Yep,
project
yep,
at the
okay.
end during board discussion. We'll move that.
Oh, okay.
in a minute, and then we'll give the community an opportunity.
Okay, to talk to us,
Yes,
right? The community's going to
yes.
come up and talk to us and question us. And
We only have one speaker
Okay.
at this particular time. So if you're planning on speaking to the board regarding this issue, please fill out a card, okay, and we'll call you up to address the concerns. All right, so we're going to move capital projects review to the end. I need approval of minutes, okay, for August 30th. Motion, Ms. Isernia, second, Ms. Volpe. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, visitors. Jose Rivera. Come on up to the microphone, please.
Hello? Yeah, my name is Jose Rivera. I have 3 kids in the district. I graduated from the district. It was great when I graduated. Lately, it hasn't been so much. Summer school, 6-week program for my first grader. 2 weeks of that 6 weeks, I drove him to school. So it's not just a September issue. It started in summer school. All right, it just didn't just start. So that's the first issue. Now, my second issue is I have a special needs child, okay? And it's very frustrating to have to take him to school and have him crying on a car ride because you don't understand what's happening. You know, my 2 daughters can tell me what's going on. They can explain to me what's the issue. They can explain to me what they need. My son can't. And that's a big issue for me because not only do I trust this company, but you guys hired them. I trust Sachem. They go to Sachem. They don't go to We Transport. You guys pay them. And my tax money goes to you guys. So I have a big issue with, yeah, you want to blame them all you want. You got enough blame. Don't get me wrong.
Mr. Rivera, if you could just address the board, please.
Yeah, no problem. But the blame should go to you too because communication ain't as well either. When my child's sitting at his school for 40 minutes, I don't get a call for 40 minutes that there's no bus, that he's sitting there? That's fair to a special needs child? This is what we do to the most vulnerable kids in our school district? This is how we treat them? It's a joke. And you should be ashamed of yourselves, all of you. And you too. And my biggest issue now is I sit here on your Zoom meeting an hour and a half ago or whatever, no resolution. I sit here tonight, no resolution. Where's the resolution? My kid has no bus ride at all. I take him in the morning, then I go to work late every day. Luckily, my boss at least knows me and knows my family for years and doesn't mind it because he knows what I'm doing. Then I have to have my mother-in-law go pick up my child because I got to work. Long Island ain't cheap. So where is when is my child going to get his pickup and drop off? I don't even get a call. I call, we get no response. Sachem Transport, I don't know. I've emailed Emily Shook if she's here from Special Needs Services. I've emailed you, Mr. Pelletieri. I've emailed and called everybody I can. Nobody listens. I even went to Channel 12 News. And if you watch Channel 12 News tonight, you're going to see me again. And I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep doing what I got to do to protect my children if you can't. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Allison, any other visitors tonight? Okay. Okay, we have item 3 is business items, consent agenda A and B. I need a motion, please. Mr. Cerny, second. Mr. Matthew Bauman. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 4, we have personnel consent agenda A through S. All right, for our teachers. Any motion, please? Ms. Stephanie Volpe, second by Mr. Bauman. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Brings us to the bottom of page 13. 5 is kind of tucked under there. We have a personnel item, consent agenda A through I for support staff. I need a motion, please. All right. Ms. Pickowitz, second. Ms. Slattery. Questions or discussions on item 5? All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Mr. Scavo?
Yep.
Can we just recognize Mr. Baruso? Mr. Baruso is a head custodian who's been working for us for 19 years, most recently at Hiawatha. He is retiring with us, actually in a mere matter of days. He's been a head custodian over at Hiawatha. He's been over at High School East. He's also been one of our core go-tos when we work with our union and the leadership of internal cabinet. So we'd like to congratulate him and thank him. And he himself has his own children and family in Sachem as well. And he was most recently a recipient of a Scope Award. And we thank him and wish him all the best in retirement.
Thank you. Item 6 is personnel consent agenda A through G for administration. Any motion, please? Ms. Isernia, second by Mr. Baumann. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 7 is brings us to contracts. We have a consent agenda A through G for contracts. Motion, please. Ms. Pickowitz, second by Ms. Reynolds. Questions or discussions? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 8A is field trips. I need a motion for item A. All right, Ms. Volpe, second by Mr. Reynolds. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 9, donations. We have a consent agenda A through C. Any motion? Ms. Slattery, second by Ms. Isernia. Any questions or discussions on item 9? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 10, we have an action item to approve the board committee approvals. Motion, please. Ms. Volpe, Stephanie Volpe, second by Mr. Reynolds. Okay, questions or discussions? All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Chris, just one question. I'm going to assume that they're going to start right away.
Yeah, everyone will begin their calendars and start. And Michelle, you have your group.
Yeah, the audit committee, we would like to schedule a meeting for October 4th.
Okay. October 4th. Okay, and one other thing to the community. I mean, we have a lot of different availabilities still left. We have 4 people on our budget advisory committee. So if there's anybody out there that's interested in being on a budget advisory committee and reviewing our proposed budgets, as well as capital projects, we have availability on citizens. The audit committee only has 3. We'll probably take one or 2 more. So if there's interest out there, please get your applications in. If you need an application, you can download it right off our website and send it to Allison Flory, our district clerk. And we are still looking for more people to fulfill some of those positions. All right. Item 11, Committee on Special Education. We have a consent agenda A and B. Any motion? Mr. Baumann, second, Ms. Alex Picarillo. Okay. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Item 12 brings us to visitors. No visitors. All right. Item 13, old business. Okay, Chris, if you want, any old business, you've got to put the board on where we're at.
I don't have any new updates to anything that would be old business. Any questions from the board about Stephanie?
Did the regents approve the charter school?
Yeah,
'Cause it was supposed to be by the first day of school, right?
We have no up.
No, the 90-day timeline ends on, I think it's October 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So we still have a couple weeks left.
That's weird.
Item 14, board discussion items. And I guess, Chris, if you do the capital project.
Yeah, please. Thank you so much. Mr. Sarakis had a busy summer supervising with Mr. Jacobellis and Scott and all our incredible facilities folks working with updating and upgrading our facilities. Really important work, right? That we don't let this stuff fall aside, continue to keep things updated and in good working order, just like our homes, right? We treat this place, our family, as our home. So, Mr. Sarakis, you want to walk us through a little bit of some of the capital improvements?
Yes. So our construction manager is management company is School Construction, and this presentation was pulled together by Chuck Quinn. He's our daily on-site amazing construction manager.
I almost cut you off there. Chuck has done an incredible job. I stopped him on a job, went over and talked to him and thanked him for all the feedback I'm getting. Really, really positive stuff. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yep. So some of the work we did this summer. Allison, it's not advancing. Oh.
Great job, Michelle. Thank you.
So we started with Sagamore Middle School. So we had a couple of projects going on here. We did the site work, which is the parking lot, the bus loop reconfigured, sidewalks, curbing, and then we did some restrooms. So first we'll go with the site work to the next slide. You can skip this next slide. So you'll see where we were before. This is the old parking lot, how it looked. This is construction when we did the excavation and put in the drainage for the new parking lot. And this was the work during the summer where a lot of people said to me, there's no way this is going to be done in time for school. Someone very close to me right now. But I said, no, it's going to happen. You'll see the new sidewalks, and you'll see the sidewalk in the middle on that lower right. That's part of that parent drop off where we have the sidewalk with the fencing to prevent the students from just running in between the cars and buses.
Has there been any updates from Sagamore about the difference between the years? Yeah.
They love it.
Good.
Yes, yes. So here's the new sidewalks going in. This was, yeah. And this is how it looks now. And it's fabulous. It really does look good. Next, we went to some of our restrooms. So just some of the before pictures of our restrooms. That's in Sagamore, the women's faculty. That's the women's faculty at Sagamore. Well, it's a good thing. So we did the full demolition of that restroom, and then you'll see the finished product here. Okay. I'll work on that. Okay. We'll do that. Men's faculty. Okay. So just go through full demolition. And then here's the men's room. And I know somebody's waiting for me to say it, and I'll get it. Right. This is from Meredith. Everyone across the district will have the same potty experience because we are doing the same colors and decoration scheme. Yes. Yep. So here are the girls' restrooms, and it's the same thing. We did it for the student, faculty. Everyone is getting the same. That's not graffiti.
Now. Okay.
Yes, yes. You can keep going. So we did the same thing in all the restrooms, and it's been the same for the last couple of years. You could just keep going, Allison.
Has North been updated and East yet? The bathrooms?
Well, so we did North last year, and I don't know if you remember the presentation. There was like sinks encased in concrete.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the same now as well.
So North has new, and does East yet?
Not yet, because East is the newest school.
Which would have Dom?
No, our bathrooms are pretty much the same they've been since my freshman year. They're paint's falling off the doors.
Dom, I didn't ask you for that. I just.
Good job, Dom. You fit right in. Good job.
Dylan, have you experienced any of the new bathrooms yet?
I mean, I don't really go to the bathroom a lot at school. I mean, I've been maybe a couple times. I mean, yeah, they're pretty nice. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to incorporate you guys into this instead of watching us yell at each other.
So then at Samoset, which is right here, we did 2 sets of restrooms just outside the Board of Ed room. This is actually upstairs in district office. But again, we did the same thing for everyone. Full demolition and same. And then downstairs here, if you come out of the Board of Ed room, right in that lobby area, that's right here by our custodial entrance, did the same thing. And they carried the tile out. So it looks really nice.
Michelle, you have just off the top of your head, number of bathrooms that we completed this summer?
This
District-wide?
summer, we did 5 sets over at Sagamore and 2 sets here.
So 7 bathrooms over the summer.
Yeah. Well, at 14, a set, men
14
and women.
Oh, 14. Okay.
Right. At Cayuga, we replaced the roof over the cafeteria. So that's the old roof. And then just the guys tearing it off. And then we have a new roof there. And then we did at Grundy, we did the gym floor. So that's the old floor, them taking it out. And that's our new gym floor at Grundy. And then this is just at several of our other schools. We did the PA system and the fire alarm system and the speakers and clocks and phones in the classroom.
And those PA systems, teachers can
Use telephones now. It's
Thank
not
you.
just a button.
Thank you. Thank you.
And these are all examples of contracts that were fulfilled and bidded on, and they did their work that they said they were going to do for us.
Correct.
Tremendous.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, any other questions for Michelle, Capital Projects? Michelle, what's coming next as far as what's on our short list of things that we need to do? Did we come in under budget? Okay, and is some of those funds available to do,
Well, we're still closing out these projects, so we're still getting final cost reports and everything in. So I'll have that in the next couple of weeks where we finished. One project that was not completed this summer, which was part of the 22-23 budget, was the addition to the bus garage.
Okay.
Because the buses, you recall, don't fit in there.
Mhm.
So when we're working in the winter, that is going to be a timing thing, because when we received approval from the state, we need several months for that construction.
Mhm.
And we'll have to find another bus garage to house us during that time so that we can work on our buses. We wouldn't be eligible to have our DOT inspections if we don't have a a garage for our buses.
Do we have any idea what we're going to use? Do we know yet?
We started having conversations with Mr. Savone about this. I'm not sure if we could go to one of the towns, like maybe town of Brookhaven or something that would house us for this time period. So we have to work on the timing of that. So that project hasn't been completed yet. And now we're in the process of all of our 23, 24 projects that were approved with the budget, getting those approvals up to the state and those coming back. And we're in the planning phases of those.
Can I, Michelle, there are guidelines, regulations that state that within a certain time period, we need to move toward electric buses.
Yes.
And I don't know where that is or where that's going to end.
Of all the questions you needed to ask tonight was about buses.
No, but it's important that the community knows this because if we're going to fix our garage, I don't want to fix it and then be told, well, now you have to fix it again to put in electricity so we can plug in buses at some point in the future. You know what I mean? I don't want to do the work twice.
The infrastructure that we would need for charging electric buses really would be outside.
Yeah,
this is for the mechanics working on our vehicles inside that garage.
So no impact about charging buses or anything like that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Board? Okay, Chris, any of the board discussions? You said a couple of projects. Okay, future discussion items from the board. Sabrina?
I just want to make sure that for all of our committees, that we have charges for them because they're going to be starting up. So we want to make sure that we know the goal of each budget. The budget advisory, legislative, curriculum council, diversity, so that they can meet and they know what we're looking for them to work on for this year. So I don't know if we'll do that next meeting.
Yeah, what we've always done in the past is if anybody has any suggestions or ideas or is hearing, from the community as to certain things we want to take on, by all means, you could, you could bring it up at the next meeting and we could certainly charge the committee with it or look at the feasibility of it. I know in years past, even with the Chromebooks, we didn't have a charge in September and we went back to the committee and said, look, what would you guys like to work on? And they said, well, the one-to-one devices. So we might want to even seek feedback from some of the members that join the committee to see what they think, they should like to work on, what they would like to see moving forward. Stephanie?
Those are the committees that have the best output and hit our goals. So the ones that are fueled by what the community wants to do.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
So it's another suggestion that I would say is that when we have our first committee meetings, throw it out there as an open discussion item. So, all right. Ms. Iseri?
Rob, if we could, I don't know if we want to do it the next meeting or the meeting after that, but we should discuss
the goals of it.
Resolutions, the New York State School Board Association resolutions, and who's going to go represent us. And also, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through the book that was sent, but if you believe it or not, the New York State School Board Association rejected the security resolution.
I didn't know that.
So I've got my own thoughts on that, and I've got my own thoughts on some of their rationale for the rejection of some of our other resolutions. There were a couple they accepted, but for the most part, the ones we submitted were rejected. And the security guard one, the rejection was based on their opinion that would limit the pool of potential candidates for security. So I don't know if that's something our legislative committee can get back on, but let's have that discussion another time.
So Mike, the thing is that they rejected before even hearing the proposal. Because the proposal was to provide the same training, just school related. So the same 8-hour training and the 16-hour training, was going to be the same number of hours, but just shifted towards, school safety.
Well, our resolution actually asked to support the bills that are in the Senate and the Assembly, right? There's actually the School Security Enhancement Act, and that was what our resolution asked for, and they actually rejected that.
It's disappointing to hear.
Yeah. So.
Right.
Maybe the next meeting we discuss
so Chris, could you add that as far as discussion about that? Any other future discussion items? Alex, Meredith?
It's not future. It's just, I just wanted to say thank you for the donation from Metamorphosis Landscape because we were seeing some of the things that they were doing at Chippewa, and that's amazing that a business, I believe that they are a parent who goes there, but that a business would get that involved and give us and beautify our school in such a way that it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's just one example. I mean, there's many different companies, local companies, of children that attend the schools that actually give back, whether it's mulch or whether it's masonry work.
Right.
So it's,
I just wanted to make sure that they
coming.
hear that we appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other future discussion items? And our next scheduled meeting is scheduled for September 27th, 2023, 7 p.m. here in the boardroom. At this particular time, I need a motion to go to exec session, discuss a legal update involving CBA cases, Union Avenue update, sale of real property, okay, as well as a request for a leave bank. Ms. Picarella, second by Ms. Reynolds. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Have a good evening, everyone.